Welcome, everybody, to our show. My name is Richard Freiberg. I'm here with my colleague, Meir Niad. I am a CPA by trade, but I have since morphed into doing more higher end consulting work, particularly in the cybersecurity area. I've been working with Meir for many, many years now. Meir, why don't you just say a little bit about yourself, and I'll introduce this live session.
Sure. I'm Meir. I'm a classically trained programmer, and I'm specializing right now in helping businesses grow, taking care of everything they do online, websites, socials, landing pages, SEO, all the good web tech stuff.
Okay, so welcome to our live stream today. We're titled our stream is Challenges and Opportunities in Today's Digital World. This is our first one that we're doing. We're going to be talking specifically today about passwords. Now, when we speak passwords, it's a very serious topic today because the UK just passed a brand new law. It only applies to smart devices. What I think inspired this is that so many devices today, and so many, for that matter, passwords in general today, are not very not very secure. So the reason they passed this is too many companies use passwords like password 123, password 1234, QWERTY, a whole bunch of passwords that if someone guesses your password, which is not that difficult, they're not only going to take over your account, they'll also have the ability to tap into every single one of your accounts. And we'll go over that. This law only applied to smart appliances, cameras, doorbells, whatever is smart device, all our appliances today. Another area that is very important is deepfakes. Deepfakes is when somebody takes your face and your voice and they effectively clone it.
That'll
Now,
probably be a lot more common now with AI going on.
well, it's very common today, Mayor. Uh, Now, luckily, when a large company just got breached, and this was actually LastPass, which is a password manager, which we'll also speak about today. The people that work there were a little bit smarter because the CEO does not speak the way he did. He does not use emojis in his emails, so most people saw through that. But the criminals are getting more sophisticated, and while they're continually evolving, we are really not. Now, a couple of clients that I've had over the years, we dealt with the foreign government and they were breached. I reached out to them and I said, answer me a question. Everybody in your government was using the same password, which was password 1234. So if you got one, you got into the whole company, you took the whole company down, or in this case, the government. We've probably all heard about SolarWinds, large company in the United States. They're in technology. Well, they set up a password which was SolarWinds 123. Well, very easy password to guess, and they created all kinds of havoc. Now, when this UK law goes, it went into effect about a month or so ago. They're going to start enforcing it. Sadly, the United States does not have a law like that right now. I think we all think they should have a law. Maybe something will happen as a result of the UK law. Yet, when someone breaches your company, there are a lot of repercussions to that. Number one, you may get fined by a regulatory compliance agency, a state, federal government. Of greater concern, we all base our reputations and our success of our companies based on our reputation. Well, you know what? Over the last month or two, AT&T got breached. Major telco has, I don't know, a couple of 100 million customers. They were breached. They're getting sued all over the place now. The same with the Ascension. They're a large healthcare company. Now, a large company can recover from these things. They throw enough money at it, they're okay. When that happens to a smaller company, and I'll define small here as, let's say, 0 to a couple of hundred employees, A, they don't have the budget. B, they don't have the tech talent to get them out of it. So oftentimes when something like this happens and they get sued or they get breached, 70% of them are out of business in 6 months. So let's go over what that means to the audience here. If your company got breached, there's a very good chance you'd be out of business, because it happened to a client of ours about 10 years ago. It was a third generation accounting firm in the Northeast. As you can tell, I'm not a Southerner from my accent. All right, I don't hear anybody chuckling about that. But they were breached. They hacked into their entire database, their entire tax return base, about 1,000 tax returns. Well, they had the FBI crawling around their office. They had all the other government agencies crawling around their office. They never recovered. They were out of business. So they built a lifetime. Remember, third generation firm. They built up their reputation and their livelihood on this. So to lose it because you were not taking proper precautions is not good. So Meir, go over, what would be something good to do for a company in terms of cyber hygiene? What should they be looking to do?
Well, they should schedule some regular trainings throughout the year to keep their cyber hygiene on top of everybody's mind. Because a lot of times, until it happens to you or somebody people don't think about it too much.
You're right, Meir. A lot of companies, and this is small and large, they think they schedule a training for June 6, 2024, and that's it. They're done forever. Well, what happens if someone's out sick today? What happens if a new employee comes in tomorrow? What if they get new devices? What about the new changes that are going on with the criminals? Remember, the criminals are evolving. Most
Oh, yeah.
companies are simply not evolving. So when we talk about training, this is every month, every 3 months at the absolute worst. And the training should encompass cyber hygiene, passwords, deepfakes, multi-factor authentication. If companies are not doing this, they can be in for a very rude awakening, because they will get breached. As we all say in cybersecurity, it's not a matter of if you're going to get breached. It's a matter of when you're going to get breached. And there's too many companies today that have absolutely no idea if they were breached, because not only do they not have cyber hygiene, they don't even have the tools in place to even know if they were in fact breached. And oftentimes a company does not even discover a breach for months after criminals are roaming around their system. And I'm not talking about a one-person shop. I'm talking about major companies. They may be into your company for months, just checking out what you're doing and what you're not doing. And when they launch their attack, your company has a world of problems. So, Mayor, I know you mentioned something to me, Mayor, a couple of weeks ago about someone you came across on LinkedIn. So, without divulging a name, tell
This
us
is,
what this story
yeah,
was.
it was an interesting story. I was looking at some profiles, networking, and there was a business coach wrote an article about what to do when you go on vacation and leave your company behind, so that you can enjoy your vacation and not be bothered. And one of the things she mentioned was how you wouldn't like it if you got a call from the company while you're on the beach. They need that login for that website. They don't remember the password. So her suggestion was she has one username and password for all the company accounts so that everybody knows how to get into everything. And my jaw dropped. I actually stopped reading, and I immediately found her email and I contacted her, and I'm like, this is a horrible way to go about keeping your business secure. I gave her advice like having different password for every account, strong passwords, multi-factor authentication. And then at the end, I was like, please do not be recommending this as a strategy to other businesses and people to have one login, because it's easier to remember. That's awful. And that's, that'll wreak havoc.
It sure will, Mayor. And too many companies use that. And once they have a password, they never change it. and they use it across multiple areas. So if they get into your business email, they're probably going to eventually find your bank account, your brokerage account, your credit card, your airline, your hotel, whatever else, your medical information. That's a serious problem. And passwords need to be rotated. They need to be changed every couple of months. We were working with a client. It was a nice sized client, a couple of hundred people, and they were smart enough, I think even before we came on board, to have it actually purchase cyber insurance. And they said their password policy was to change passwords every 90 days. Well, they were breached. The insurance company sends an auditor in, takes a look at all the paperwork and the logs and everything else, finds out that one employee, you're talking about less than 0.5% of the people in the company, missed a password date. They could have been on vacation. They could have been sick. They could have forgot. Maybe they weren't prompted. Maybe they were prompted and they just simply, I'll get to it tomorrow. Well, guess what? Claim denied. That's a problem. You can literally go on almost anywhere, and you think you have a popular password. We're working with a law firm in Atlanta, Georgia, or a suburb of Atlanta. And I said, and we had something at that point that would determine if you gave us a password, what was commonly used and how many times it was used. I said, well, you're in Atlanta. What sports team do you like in Atlanta? I assume they all like the Atlanta whatever. They said, oh, Atlanta Hawks. We plugged it in. 37,000 people were using it. So you may think you have a really original password. You may use a sports team, a celebrity, an actor, a musician. Chances are that's in use. We suggest a variety of characters, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols like the question mark or the exclamation point or $sign. And it has to be completely crazy and something that most people would not think about. But one of the things that we've seen, and I've seen it, people have actually called me, it's hard to remember the password. So what I do is I put them all in a Word doc, my login and my passwords. I said, well, how'd you get it onto your computer? Oh, I typed it all in. How'd you save it? File was called passwords. Now, what do you think would happen when someone logs into your computer and they're going through everything in there and they say, oh, passwords, great. Or they put it under their typing keypad.
Or sticky note on their monitor.
Yeah.
I've seen that actually.
We all have, these are typical examples of poor cyber hygiene. And talking about cyber hygiene, one of the craziest things I've ever seen was probably the largest non-regional CPA firm up in the tri-state area. And they grew so quickly that they needed to get a second office for some people that worked there and for all their IT. Well, P.S., the door was never locked. We were in there 1 or 2 times. There was no one in there. I said, guys, just lock the door when you leave. Well, you know what? Anybody can walk in there and take your entire system down because it's not locked up, it's not secure. The cleaning ladies can walk in and put one of those flash drives in your computer and they can take everything under the sun. And I've seen that happen. I've written newsletters about that. I've had bankers and medical people. They leave their computer on. They don't do as much anymore, but even as recently as 2 or 3 years ago, they leave their computer on with your stuff on there and they're out of the room. Now, I guess I don't have the criminal face, thankfully, I think. But if I was a criminal, same thing, flash drive. Take the whole company down and take the whole medical system down. There are bad policies. My mom was getting a medical test at one of the largest providers in North Carolina and talking to the people there because that's what I do. I'm the driver now. She doesn't anymore. Well, they were sending emails on AOL and Gmail and Hotmail. Missing somebody. Gmail, Hotmail, AOL. It was only 6 months ago they stopped allowing their employees to actually do that from the corporate network. So there's a lot out there that you need to be aware of. Oftentimes it comes down to, what are your policies? Do you have them? Are they being enforced? Are you working with somebody? Now, some of the large companies certainly do, but unless you're looking at everything they do all the time, and unless you educate the people on an ongoing basis, someone's going to make a mistake, and they always do. And criminals are getting smarter, and we're actually regressing. That's certainly not a good thing. So we recommend that all the time. We recommend outsourcing your cybersecurity, your maintenance, your hygiene, and everything else to a firm like ours and Meir's that's well versed in that area. Because if you don't do that, you could be out of business in a very short period of time. I think with that, is there anything else you'd like to add, Meir?
We have a question that came in over the chat. Tim in Ontario, he says, what's the difference between 2FA and MFA?
You want to take that, Meir?
And that's a good question. So that's two-factor authentication and multi-factor authentication. Both are good options that you should enable on any online account that offers it. Because normally, you log in, username and password. You can think of that as one factor, but somebody has that, they're in. So you need another factor, like your phone number or email. You may have experienced this. You set it up and you get a code. You got to put the code in. A hacker won't have your phone, so they won't get the code. They'll be stopped. They won't be able to log in.
Right.
Multi-factor is even better. You might have the Authenticator app on your phone where it changes like every 20 seconds or so to a new code. These are all good methods to have multiple ways of proving your identity beyond guessing the right username and password.
That's very important. You mentioned a very, very important area, Meir, in the Authenticator app. Now, they have not only the apps, but I've seen little things they have that you literally plug into
there's a hardware
computer or your phone, and that's another authenticator. Now, not everybody happens to use that, but I know it works on LinkedIn and I know it works on Twitter because I've used it, at least when I was on Twitter.
Yeah.
It
might be annoying to have to be sent a code and look it up and type it in, but it's more annoying for someone else to take over your account and trying to get it back. So I'd rather be delayed, a little bit, putting in a code than having to fight that and prove to Facebook or whoever that I'm actually me and not this other guy who logged in.
Yeah, that's really important. The one that I was using was just, I plugged it into one of the drives on my computer and it says, "Are you you?" And I just push the button. So you want to make it as difficult as you possibly can for someone to get hold of your information. Because once they have it, you're at their mercy. Now, it is a little bit better today because there's more public awareness of this. I remember 30 years ago, I had a client, he said, someone stole my identity. And the FBI laughed at him, the police laughed at him. He went through a period of 2 or 3 years where his life was a proverbial living hell. Luckily today, there are things that you can actually do about it. But it all starts with your awareness. And without awareness, you are going to have a problem. It's not, as we said, it's not if it happens, it's when it happens. And if it's happened to the U.S. government, and it's happened to AT&T and JP Morgan and Home Depot, it will happen to you. And there are specific verticals that are certainly higher at risk. Healthcare is a major risk. You probably read every day about some medical association or hospital chain getting breached. And that's a major issue because you know what? We're all patients somewhere. They just had a case that settled, I think it was an Alabama lady. Hospital was breached. She was about to give birth and her baby died because they didn't have the right equipment in place. We said, look, I would have taken my baby somewhere else to be born. The same thing happened in, I think it was Dusseldorf, Germany. But otherwise, it could be your bank. Banks have been breached. If they breached JP Morgan, they breached Citibank. I think they may have even gotten into companies with unlimited budgets like Wells Fargo and Bank of America. So the point is nobody's safe, but you want to do as much as you can to make the life of the criminal just a little bit more difficult. This one's too difficult. Let me go somewhere else. It's like comparing it to your house. If you have a house that you have trees blocking the house and the house never has lights on in there, and you're not protected by an alarm system, and you don't have some massive dog around, well, guess what? That house is more likely to be broken into than one that is protected. So your job is to protect yourself as best you're able to, and or reach out to a company that can help you in that area. Because as the saying goes, the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
That's good advice there.
And
And
any other
also check
questions?
on, I would suggest check on family members because they might not be doing anything to secure their accounts.
That's a very good point, Mayor. And today we've all heard about the K through 12 schools and even colleges getting breached. And while we may have something in place for ourselves and someone steals our identity, we never think about our children. So they can graduate high school at age 18 or 19 or whatever age they graduate, and they may find they're $300,000 in debt with nothing to show for it.
Mm.
Today you're born, you get a social security number probably a couple of days in the hospital. Wasn't like that when I was born, but today that's what it is. You have it. Your kids are in big trouble, and they don't really know. I mean, I worked with someone about 10 years ago, and his kids wrecked his entire computer. He got them their own computer so they can play around with it and get infected and everything else. But they didn't know. And today, everybody wants the famous new pair of brand sneakers, and they play off mom against dad. Hey, I need your credit card. Be safe. Do the transaction for your kid. I'm not telling you how to deal with your kid, but if you decide, you want your kid to have that new pair of whatever sneakers, do the transaction for them. You'll all be better in the long run. But there are things that you can do to protect your identity, because when identities get stolen, it's not so easy to get back. There are a lot of things on the market everyone's heard of before. They don't necessarily fix your problem. They tell you what it is, and they tell you what you should do. Well, that's nice, but you know what? If I'm going to pay for something, I want you to take care of it for me. I want to call you and say, hey, I got a problem, Houston, fix it. I don't want to have to deal with Social Security and the IRS and your state and the banks and credit cards, all the other accounts that you may have. I want you to fix it. And our company actually sells a product like that. It's very inexpensive for an individual and even more cost effective for a family, and covers things that the other ones that are most popular in the marketplace don't cover. Why can we do it more cost effectively than they do? Easy, because we're not spending hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising and fines, because most of them have been fined so many times for false advertising. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Are there any other questions that came in, May, or anybody live on the show that has any questions?
I don't see anything, but if they
Okay.
do, they can contact us. We'll have our contact info posted on here.
Terrific. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. Mayor and I are going to be doing these type of streams every couple of weeks. If you want to get to us with what you'd like us to cover, that's fine. I think the next topic we're probably going to be discussing is social media. Social media can be your best friend. And I remember I went into social media about a dozen years ago, kicking and screaming, saying it's of no value. Well, used right, it can be a big asset for you or your firm. So once again, thanks for coming. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. And if you have any questions, Meir will probably, in the chat feature, will probably have all the contact information, how to subscribe to our podcast, our newsletters, our feeds, and everything else.
All that good stuff.
Yeah. So,
All right.
Meir, you want to put that up in the chat or the comments area?
Yep, we'll get that posted, and see you all next time. Or you'll see us next time, because we
Then
can't
we
see
hope to see you
you
next time.
one way.
Okay.
All right, take it easy.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.